The first thing is the ability to think of technology as a strategic enabler, and that comes right from the top. It's the recognition that technology, it's not just a cost center for us, it's a nerve center.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Shaleen Devgun. Shaleen is the Chief Innovation and Technology Officer of Schneider National, a transport, freight shipping, and logistics company that earns in excess of $5.3 billion in annual revenue. Shaleen has been with the company for 16 years and in his current role for 3. He also spent most of 7 years as the company's Chief Information Officer prior to his current post. Shaleen operates in 2 worlds, one as the head technologist for Schneider National and one as an ecosystem curator, venture investor, and shaper of innovation on behalf of the company as well. I look forward to hearing more about his fascinating role and its application in a company as consequential as Schneider National and beyond. Shaleen, welcome back to Technovation. It's great to speak with you today.
Peter, Happy New Year. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Hope all's well.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much. Well, Shaleen, let's begin with Schneider National, and maybe you can give us an update on the business and an overview of it in your own words.
So thank you again, Peter, for the opportunity. So Schneider National is a transportation and logistics company. I think you teed us off. We're north of $5.3 billion in revenue. We're predominantly operating in North America. We serve our customers or shipper through our 3 main businesses: our over-the-road network business, which is our truckload business, our intermodal business, and then our logistics business, which includes trucking brokerage, as well as 4PL logistics.
I appreciate that context. And talk a bit about your role. It's an unusual title, and I know, of course, as I described in brief, an unusual purview as well. Talk a bit more about it, if you would.
It's an unusual and really long title as well. So I agree with that. So as you mentioned in the intro, that I did have or had accountability as the CIO. I took on the additional innovation accountability about 3 years ago. So my role, if I was to describe my role, it is not classical as you would expect otherwise. So I have what is more traditional or classical CIO kind of responsibility, which includes our product management and product development organization, the traditional application development, the data centers. I have accountability for telematics. And then, as a network-based business, algorithmic platforms are really key to what we do every single day. So I have accountability for what we call as logistics engineering, decision science, and advanced analytics. So that's the more sort of pseudo-traditional portion of the role. In addition to that, I have the privilege of leading our innovation agenda as Chief Innovation Officer, and that includes running our corporate venture fund, Packerland Ventures, and also our other innovation initiatives alongside of that.
Well, I'd love to get into that a little bit, if you don't mind. The Packerland Ventures, I know there's another investment vehicle referred to as Scope 23 that you lead as well. Can you talk a bit further about, first of all, the differences between those as well as the missions of them?
Yep. So I'll take a step back and talk about Packerland Ventures. Packerland Ventures is our corporate venture fund. Schneider, long before I was here, has a rich, 90-year history of pragmatic innovation. Whether it's the first company to, pilot onboard telematics in the truck in the late 1980s with Qualcomm, and that sort of tradition has been kept alive. So Packerland Ventures is another sort of step in that direction to ensure that we are doing our best to pragmatically lead this industry into sort of the future marketplace of movement that you've heard me talk about in the past. So that's what Packerland Ventures is. We're a little different in terms of we don't operate like a venture fund. There's no desire to have a particular amount of deal flow come through. We're very judicious in what we look at. Our investment thesis is rooted in technologies and platforms that are geared towards our core competency, that are geared towards creating a fundamental positive change in the industry as a whole. And then we participate as investors, promoters, bringing our domain expertise, and more importantly, we then work with these platform companies, entrepreneurs, to bring our large scale to the equation, if you will, and then bring liquidity to a new founder startup, if you will, or platform, if you will. If that's sort of how I would say what Packerland Ventures is, and then I'll give you a second to respond, and then we'll get into Scope 23.
Yeah, no, maybe we move there now. I would love to just from a context perspective understand the two.
Yeah, so as part of Packerland Ventures, in addition to investing in entrepreneurs and in platforms that we believe are going to be fundamental differentiators as we sort of create the future place of freight movement, we also have an incubation studio that's part of Packerland Ventures. Scope 23 is one of the companies that was incubated within our venture studio. We incubated Scope 23. It's a platform to decarbonize shippers' supply chains today, as opposed to waiting for what I like to call when Skynet takes over and we're all living in a zero carbon society. It's the ability to do something today to limit the production of greenhouse gas emissions in large companies' supply chain. Transportation usually is a top three source of those GHG emissions, and we believe as a company we have a moral responsibility towards doing what we can to lower those emissions today. And that's where the idea of Scope 23 was sort of germinated, and that's where it came from.
That is fascinating, and as you point out, there's a real role that you all can play in terms of making a difference, and in the same time, it sounds like perhaps bringing some of these ideas more broadly to the marketplace as well. Can you talk a bit about some of the ideas that have percolated through that may in fact make a difference in such an important and consequential area as what you described?
Yeah, so as part of we run 10 million miles every single day. So in running that, you do create emissions. We are happy and thrilled to be a pragmatic innovator. We're one of the largest fleets, one of the largest implementations of Class 8 EVs in the country right now. We've got almost 100 Class 8 EV trucks that we're running in our intermodal setting. So we've always believed that we have a role, a leadership role to play in helping shippers decarbonize their supply chains. Now, one of the things that we noticed in those interactions is the inability to actually proactively influence emissions. Most of the things that we saw were happening were reporting the news using what I would loosely term as fourth grade math to say, hey, this is the miles you ran, this is what your emissions were. So we believe that given our experience in building decision science platforms, we could combine the ability to bring decision science to allow our shippers to proactively get on an action platform that help them reduce emissions when it makes business sense for them. And that's how the whole idea of Scope 23 evolved. And we've been now doing this for about 2 years. We've got a very large company that is working with us where we're implementing, we're learning, we're evolving the product, but we do believe it's a differentiator and it's a unique product in the marketplace that is actually a action platform as opposed to a reporting platform, and allowing shippers to actually decarbonize their supply chains today.
Just fascinating. I want to return to Packerland Ventures and some of the broader investments that you're making there. You noted some of the similarities and also some of the differences to traditional venture investing in terms of how that part of the organization operates. You mentioned there's not quite the same sanctity to deal flow, but no doubt, I'm sure there's still, as you're thinking with that investment lens and that growth mindset in terms of the areas in which you might invest. Can you provide some more color as to some of the investments you're making and some of the things that have you most excited as you've done the research associated with that?
Yeah, so Peter, when you and I talked last time, we talked about platform science, which was really our first foray into corporate venture capital. Platform science is fast becoming the de facto telematics platform for Class 8 tractors. They're currently engaged with the majority of the OEMs in this space to really capture uh, the data in what is now being termed as a software-enabled vehicle or software-defined vehicle realm. So platform science was a great example. It was something as we saw the trends where we saw the industry moving away from hardware appliances to more of a software-based marketplace in the cab. We worked with platform science to solve a problem that we believed was a problem that the industry needed to solve. We solved it for Schneider first, and that was the evolution or the creation of what now is platform science. A more recent endeavor has been our investment in Mastery Logistics, in which we partnered with Jeff Silver, who's the founder of Coyote Logistics, to really redefine what a TMS or a transportation management system, think of that as an ERP in the transportation space, could be for the future. It's built around the ability to automate a transportation value chain, which in today's world is very complicated, but also manual in areas where it shouldn't be. So those are two large investments we made where we took on the role of not just an investor, but an active promoter, bringer of domain expertise to the table, as well as liquidity to both these companies, because we're customers of both these companies that I mentioned. So sort of going towards that whole hypothesis around not just being an investor, but truly getting engaged and bringing something to our core business that makes us better, but also helps to change the industry for the better. And that's sort of the hypothesis and the mission and vision behind Packerland Ventures.
You referenced some of the outside investors that you are partnering with, and I know that you are a curator of broad ecosystems to benefit these endeavors as well as others beyond that for Schneider National. Talk a bit about your own philosophy on the curation of that ecosystem in order to develop ideas, make investments, and so on.
Yeah. So Peter, you and I have over the years have talked about this extensively. I sincerely believe that true innovation in an industry happens when leaders with domain expertise and the ability to reimagine in an industry partner with centers of innovation. And those centers of innovation might be centers of innovation across both sides of the coast to bring in entrepreneurs that understand how to bring technology and tip it over from a scale perspective and marry that domain expertise, the ability to understand the industry, the context, and then bringing those two sort of pillars together creates a foundation of long-lasting and pragmatic innovation that changes industries. So with that philosophy, that's what we're applying. That's what sits behind Packerland Ventures. That's what sits behind our, we built a brand new innovation center, The Grove, which is where we're bringing in entrepreneurs, young and old, from across the country, folks that are dedicated to changing this industry and defining that future marketplace and movement. We're bringing our domain expertise, our ability to bring resources, and then the liquidity as being a large customer of those services to hopefully, bring positive change to not just our business, but to the industry at large.
And the Grove, as I recall, it's actually also in Green Bay, as you are, and as Schneider National is. Is that right?
It is very much. It sits in a grove right on our campus, our corporate campus here in Green Bay, and it has allowed us to continue to attract talent because of the problems that we're solving and our ability to sort of learn, unlearn, to learn again, to sort of define. So we're solving some really interesting problems, and that's what allows us to attract some really good talent to Green Bay here.
Speaking of talent, who works with you on some of the internal activities you've talked about? To talk a bit about the makeup of the team.
So, this is one of the things we've talked to over the years. I'm a big believer in being scrappy, right? So that whole idea of make do and pragmatic innovation is sort of inbuilt. It's a core belief. And in this industry, it's easy to sort of retain that core belief, right? So what we've done really effectively is curate a team of what I would term our corporate athletes at my senior most level, mid-level, and junior level that have the ability to go broad and go deep, as I call it. So we've been able to run tours with people that have day jobs, but then we can bring them into the innovation space and say, hey, here, for the next 6 months, you're spending 60 or 70% of your time thinking about this problem and how we redefine this, this idea into a solution that helps us. And we're doing that by not forcing people. This is people standing up, raising their hands, saying, we want to do this. And that's really the key. We're blessed to have, and that really to me is not so much as to what we've done. This Schneider is such a place where innovation is so blended into the DNA. It's hard for someone that comes into this environment. It's really easy for them to sort of get infected with that mindset, and that's really what we're doing. So you'd be surprised maybe to learn that we don't have a large innovation or venturing organization. We're almost a virtual organization that comes together with a purpose when we're either looking at a platform or considering an incubation, incubates it, and then moves on to doing other, hopefully bigger and better things. So, and that has worked really well for us in terms of what we've been able to accomplish in that in this time frame, Peter.
When somebody is seconded to this, I wonder what evidence you've had in terms of this enriching their experiences when they go back to their operational roles, their traditional sets of responsibilities. Have you seen virtuous aspects of this innovation mindset for a 6-month period infecting, to use your word, the way in which they're operating in their day jobs?
That's a great question. And that's exactly one of the things that we celebrate is, hey, as much as we would like to bring innovation to the industry, it's the mindset. It's the innovation or the growth mindset that we're trying to curate and cultivate within the company. So folks that have worked with us, whether it's an initiative that we've defined through our innovation groups, and this is folks across the company. We're thinking about frontline leaders that have operating roles, that have financial roles, that have human resources roles, that are coming in, working in this, on problems in this space, and then are going back to their respective functions, and then developing the ability, I think, which is most, which is the biggest issue with large innovators, right? That's the innovator's dilemma. Hey, how do the knowledge of the truth that stops you from saying, well, that can never happen because I know what it is. The ability to unlearn, to learn again is being curated and cultivated. And we're seeing it in all parts of the organization where someone that worked on this role and said, hey, what about this place? Why? The ability to ask, what if, is the biggest piece that we think that we are seeing, and we're seeing across the organization, which is very great to see.
Incredibly virtuous, certainly. And Shaleen, I also wanted to ask you about the advantages of having a leader in a group that operates in such a mode. As I think about our history and many conversations and collaborations across the years, when you were just a CIO, if you will, you were always oriented to thinking a lot bigger. And now your title, in many ways, is reflective of the ambition you've long had. Can you talk a bit about your own journey and the insights associated with the power of developing a great technology function that allows you then to think a concentric circle or two beyond that, bringing, as you point out, many people along the way to participate in the various new aspects that have become part of your responsibilities?
Yeah, the first thing is the ability to think of technology as a strategic enabler. And that comes right from the top, whether it's our Mark Rourke, our CEO, our leadership team. It's the recognition that technology, it's not just a cost center for us, it's a nerve center, right? It's that appreciation and then the support that's given. None of this would be possible if we didn't have the support of our CEO and the entire leadership team of my peers. So none of this would happen without them. The other piece is, as a CIO, and the idea of just a CIO, no CIO I believe, is just a CIO, because sometimes but I see your drift in that is, to me, it's the ability to talk innovation and have a seat around the table has to start with doing some of those foundational things first. The ability to curate a platform that the business can transact on and grow, so that we're not, putting today at risk in the pursuit of tomorrow, is mandatory. So as I think of my role even today as a Chief Innovation and Technology Officer, my first piece is, hey, I'm accountable for running and creating a platform where the business can transact on. I'm ensuring that from an information perspective, we're secure. All those things, whether it's those foundational pieces like cybersecurity, the ability to have our communications channel, our telephones, we've got soft phones now working all the time. The ability for teams to collaborate, a collaboration platform has to work. Our ERP, our corporate systems have to work. So all of those things have to be in a position where you've got those right where you want them. You're running, you're meeting or exceeding your SLAs in having those platforms available. And then you can ask and then, be given the rights to innovate and help grow new growth channels, to create revenue opportunities for the companies. But I think that comes first before this can, we earn the right to talk about all the things I'm talking about. And hopefully as tech here, we've earned that right.
I love that orientation and framing, Shaleen, earning the right to achieve and push for greater levels of innovation along the way. I wanted to also ask you, as somebody who is so immersed in a variety of different realms and thinks a lot about innovation, what are some of the trends that are emerging that you're seeing that have you particularly excited as you look to the future?
Well, in our business, we've leveraged, we deal with a lot of information. So the ability to bring machine learning and, marrying logistics concepts with the power of compute is what we're already doing. I think, like any other industry, the ability to create cognitive technologies that really help elevate the human higher in the value chain is where the opportunity is. I always think of technology now as a maximizer of the human talent as opposed to eliminator of the human talent. If we can take some of our best people, I sincerely believe we have the best people in the industry, and we can make them catalysts by taking away the mundane and surrounding them with these technologies that have the cognitive ability to really help them do so much more and be multipliers for the company. That's where I see some real good opportunities for the industry. And because, two of the easiest things to add in transportation, people, cost, and capital, and those are the hardest things to sort of rationalize. And I think the ability to rewire the organization using technologies like Gen AI is where I am super excited. And we're piloting some things in that space. So really interesting times there, I'm pretty sure of that.
More to come here, and look forward to remaining abreast of some of the progress. Absolutely. Well, I wanted to also ask you, Shaleen, as somebody who I know has a broad appetite of intellectually, what are some things that you've recently read, listened to, and/or watched that you would recommend to others?
Well, this is not set up, but I have been a follower of MetaStrategy. I love the IP that you put out, Peter. I've been a follower of your podcast, the Tech Innovation podcast. I always learn. When I watch that, I've had the opportunity to read some of your books. I'm planning to get to all of them. So that is definitely something I'd recommend, which is why we're having this conversation. And, so I'd say that for sure is one of my sources for knowledge, if you will. That's the one I'd say I definitely, recommend to your listeners.
No, incredibly gracious and generous recommendation there, Shaleen. Thank you so much for that. And thank you more broadly for a great conversation, emblematic of the remarkable work you and your team are doing. Much success, and look forward again to remaining abreast of the innovations to come and hopefully future conversations like this one.
Well, thank you for your friendship, Peter, and thank you so much, and Happy New Year again.